Hello, figments of my imagination. Adding Nadu to existing decks is one thing, but today I'm bringing you the real combo decks. The ones focusing explicitly on winning the game by playing Nadu and drawing your deck. Now, I had to delay this video in particular for a little bit because of a late spoiler. Springheart Nantuko. This creature solved a lot of problems my early versions of the deck had, and makes it incredibly easy to combo off on turn 3. The increased consistency also means you could consider ditching white altogether, something I would not have liked without the easy access to Court of Calling. I've left in my original versions, recorded before Nantuko was spoiled. If you want to skip straight to the current versions, timestamps on the screen now. Otherwise, enjoy the decks. This is a all-in combo version. It's my first draft of one. It has a remarkably consistent, well, surprisingly consistent turn 3 kill, but a way more consistent turn 4. For the equipment, we have 4 Shuko and 2 Lightning Greaves, and 1 Cauldron Complete. This just helps put a target on Stoneforge Mystic. If you already have like a Shuko or a Greaves, you search this up and now they have to kill Stoneforge. For Delighted Halfling, it's the 1-drop to be. 2 Gilded Goose. Delighted Halfling's a weaker cousin, I guess. You can use it once, essentially, but it's an 0-2, so it survives Bowmaster at least. 4 Giver of Runes. This is your ideal curve, honestly, is turn 1 Giver of Runes, turn 2 Stoneforge. 1 Sylvan Safekeeper. I'm really glad they added this to Modern, finally. There's been a lot of decks in the past where I've wanted a singleton to search up with things like Summoner's Pact or Court of Calling, so it's good to finally have them in here. Just lets you protect your creatures with your lands. You weren't using those anyways, so. Conveniently targets as well, so with Nadu in a pinch, we can just throw away lands to draw cards. Probably don't want to do that, but the protection is the key aspect here. For Stoneforge, we already know what's up with that. 1 Thesis Oracle, because this is the kill I went with here. You mill out your deck incredibly quickly. Nadu doesn't actually draw the cards, so you can keep going all the way to 0, and then from there you should be able to play the Thesis Oracle between your lands and your creatures. 3 Cryptolith. This helps in going off, especially with Lightning Greaves. You can play a creature, draw 2 cards off of it, give it Lightning Greaves so it taps for mana. Like I said, this was my first version, and I'm not actually sure how necessary something like this is. I think if you just up the land count, probably okay, because the Nadu effect puts the lands into play untapped, and you can just keep going off with that. But I left it in here for now. 4 Summoner's Pact, these are just extra copies of Nadu, but it can also be Sylvan Safekeeper or possibly any sideboard cards you add. And 3 Ephemerate, this helps reset Nadu. Hitting 1 when going off early game will essentially guarantee you draw your whole deck. The lands, the only thing that's important here is you want to keep your fetch lands slightly low, because you'll run out of fetchable lands, and you want lands that come into play and add mana. But other than that, it's a pretty standard 3-color mana base. There's a lot of directions to go with this shell, which I did, so let's move on. Here we have the full combo version, but the kill is the Saheeli Rai Feldar Guardian combo. I kind of like this version because Feldar resets Nadu. Beyond that, the list is essentially the same. 4 Shuko, 1 Lightning Greaves, Cauldron Complete, Halfling, Gilded Goose, only 1 of now because we had to cut a few things to make space, 2 Giver of Runes, Safekeeper still, Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, the list is essentially the same. The mana base had to change a little bit. Feldar Guardian, Blinking Nadu is going to be very strong when you're going off, and it's pretty easy to just get the combo going. Saheeli Rai can also copy Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, Saheeli is surprisingly okay on this deck on its own. Just copying a creature gives you 2 extra triggers, and most of your creatures do something. Overall, this is probably the version I would actually run. I think it's better than the 3-color version that kills with Thesis Oracle. So moving on. Alright, so the first version is still a Bant deck. You have 4 Shuko and 1 Lightning Greaves. These are your combo cards, or at least it's half the combo. You have 4 Delighted Halfling. It's the best 1-drop green accelerator in Modern because it survives Bowmaster. You have your 4 Nadu. The combo, that's what we're going to be drawing our deck with. You have 1 Outrider in Core. This also combos with Nadu, similar to Lightning Greaves and Shuko, but it does it at instant speed. It can do it on your opponent's turn, and it's a creature that you can search up with Court of Calling. So there's just 1 copy in the deck. 4 Springheart Nantuko. This is the reason for updating the list. It is the cheapest card that generates creatures on landfall, and as a bonus, it itself is a creature. So you can Chord for it, and you can Summoner's Pact for it, you can have multiples in play, and they'll all trigger. And it itself, plus fetch lands, allows you to very easily Court of Calling and spend no mana. While going off, you typically will make a massive amount of tokens, and you could, in theory, pass the turn, as long as your deck's not empty, and then kill them the next turn with all the tokens, but ideally you just kill them with Thesis Oracle. 4 Stoneforge Mystic. This acts as extra copies of Shuko and Lightning Greaves. We can Court of Calling it, we can Ephemerate it if we need to. 1 Sylvan Safekeeper. This card gets even better with Court of Calling in the deck because we can now search it up at instant speed in response to removal. 1 Thesis Oracle. It's how we're going to win the game. We're going to draw an entire deck and we're going to play this, and we're going to win. Can't just get beaten by the one ring or other nonsense like that. And 4 Wall of Roots. Part of the advantage of moving to a Court of Calling is you get Wall of Roots, who is a very sturdy mana accelerator. Also helps enable some of the early plays. It's possible you don't even need all 4 of these, but it does help you win very quickly. We have 4 Court of Calling. As mentioned earlier, this is made possible by Springheart and Nantuko. It'll let you search for any creature, puts it directly into play. We have 2 Ephemerate. It's not wholly necessary, but having the ability to draw into these allows you to more consistently go off and continue going off and draw your whole deck when you're comboing rather than fizzling halfway. Currently fizzling is pretty unlikely, but this ensures that it's almost impossible. It also helps protect. And 2 copies of Summoner's Pact. This is just extra copies of Nadu. While going off, they could be extra copies of Springheart and Nantuko as well. And of course, it could also be Sylvan Safekeeper if you need protection for your combo. Just don't forget to pay if you are forced to pass the turn. Lands, you want to avoid fetch lands, but you also want to play them, so it's an awkward balance. I went with 7 in the end, 7 fetch lands. Got 1 of Beseiju. Obviously, you want to always have 1 of these in pretty much any green-based deck. 2 Dryad Arbor. Dryad Arbor is incredibly good while going off, so you want to be able to fetch them. Any amount more than 2, and you find yourself with really awkward opening hands, so 2 is what I settled on. Like I said, 7 fetches, 4 Misty, and 3 Windswept. All of your fetches need to be able to get green. 1 Otawara, good answer to just about everything. 4 Urza Saga for more redundancy with the combo. Literally the only card you can search up is Shuko, at least main deck. Sideboard you can include all sorts of 1-ofs that can help against certain archetypes, and Urza Saga can search them up for you. So this is the improved version of the deck. Probably the list I would play on day 1. I'm still not sure what a sideboard would look like here, but I'm sure it includes some amount of 1 mana hate artifacts. And probably a Cauldron Complete in the board, because after game 1, people might have ways to stop your combo, so you can just play fair and get them. So moving on to the other version now. Alright, this is a straight blue-green deck, no white. Makes the mana a little smoother. Obviously it has its own trade-offs though. Starting with the artifacts, we have 1 Haywire Might, search up with Urza Saga, or Court of Calling if needed, and 4 Shuko. You still want to maximize your ability to just draw this naturally, but you have 4 Urza Saga and Trinket Mage to search it up as well. 4 Delighted Halfling for the same reason as the Bant version. 4 Nadu so we can win the game. 4 Springheart and Nantuko. Since we dropped white, we went up to 3 Sylvan Safekeepers. It makes it more likely to be a natural draw. We could still cord for it though, or Summoner's Pact for it. 1 Thassa's Oracle, that's how we're going to win the game. 1 Trinket Mage, it lets our cords find Shuko if we need to. And 4 Wall of Roots. For instance, we have 4 Court of Calling. We also have 2 Pact of Negation. So this is one of the reasons I like this version a little. It's because you can fit things like this in the main deck. When you go off, you have only a single Thassa's Oracle. If for some reason your opponent has an answer to that, you lose in the other version, which I don't really like that. I'm thinking more and more about adding something like Eternal Witness or maybe Endurance. Although Endurance is awkward if they can exile it somehow. So is Eternal Witness. Maybe you run Pact of Negation in that deck as well. Removal doesn't matter, but counterspells do. So something to keep in mind. If you think your opponent has something like that, then honestly, if they're leaving up counter magic that early in the game, they're probably not doing anything relevant. So instead of going for the Thassa's Oracle kill, you should just make a bunch of tokens, get a bunch of lands in play, build up a nice 7-card hand, and pass the turn. If they answer it, you can just do it all again. But in this version, you have Pact of Negation, so you can kind of ignore that. Dig all the way through your deck, last card you cast is Thassa's Oracle, they counter it, you packed it. If they have a second counter for some reason, you packed it again, and that should be all they have. And for Summoner's Pact, to search up just about every creature in the deck, except Thassa's Oracle and Trinket Mage. The mana base is pretty similar to the Bant version, honestly. Only differences are 4 breeding pools, because you don't need to worry about other colors, and a single waterlogged grove, just to give a little extra draw power from your lands. I will say, as far as going off is concerned, they goldfish at the same rate, so I'm not really sure which one I'd play. I like that playing white gives you more options, like you can play a fair game post-board. You also have wider access to sideboard cards, because white has some of the best sideboard cards in Modern, or at least very specific hate pieces. That being said, blue-green is also very consistent in its own way. It's easier, it's more forgiving. Either way, I would play the Bant version if I was going to play a Modern tournament tomorrow, probably with a few modifications, depending on how hostile I thought the metagame would be. Now that Shuko is like $14, I think people really expect the deck, so I don't know what I would change yet, but luckily I don't have to play a Modern tournament tomorrow, so I don't need to bang my head against it. I can look at the metagame and respond. Anyways, that's it. Like I said, I'll be dropping another list every day until I run out, so interact however you want, and I'll see you all tomorrow.